Welcome to New Era Religion, Episode 1, describing this new education experiment, March 9, 2022. Relevant links will be provided. You can read the entire transcript on my website, newerareligion.com. Our humanity has been adapting to the manifest forms for centuries. We depend on the academically educated expertise in most cases. This might be a fairly dependable accreditation because those university students seriously study the fields that promise them careers and the best paid salaries, according to whatever sets those various incomes. But most important, it seems to me, is what is not studied, and perhaps the subject matter was omitted from higher education because the discoveries would require an adjustment that could prove to be less profitable if it derives from a different coordinate system that does not necessarily synchronize with the politics, the religion, the justice, the war, belief complexities that are all involved with our humanity's future generations, as actions and reactions result in every case. The interactions call into play all that our intelligent species, humans of a mind, can be best informed about concerning survival. Humans adapting to the manifest form are what every newly born generation can become more aware of. For me, in my lifetime, the scenarios relevant to some of Bucky Fuller's writing have been occurring at least since the mid-1940s. It survives throughout today as the computer technology and the internet have made great strides into almost every facet of the universal communications process, including availability of variously published materials, one of which is synergetics, which is the focus of New Era Religion and experimental education complex. Had I not experienced some of these events, learning of it from observing the disseminated information from the environment, how could I convey what I've discovered during my observations that became increasingly more actively a learning process? From day one, when I decided to write for Peace, referring to Bucky Fuller's synergetics explorations in the geometry of thinking, the insight and consciousness evolution motivate further interest in sharing the experience with anyone. Please subscribe, follow along, choose for yourself as I show some of the steps I have taken to write many hundreds of essays since the early 1980s. The computer's word processing software most definitely is an advantage to the credit of all those university graduates whose intelligence with computer technology adds features to the writer's advantage. Basically, it is a tool that includes a writing surface, dictionaries, and thesauruses on one's personal computer, and reference material that is online. Some of the reference resources, however, may not be accurate, as the biased news media and variously contrived propaganda agendas can mislead the observer's reporting from its individual perspective interpretation, primarily. My focus is on synergetics in R. Buckminster Fuller's discoveries. We are advantaged by referring to synergetics online thanks to the physicist R.W. Gray, who maintains those 2 volumes on his private server for anyone to read on the internet. I include a link to the table of contents, which lists links to anyone's interest in what synergetics is and questions to be asked as well. I purchased from the Buckminster Fuller Institute in the early 1980s the Synergetics Dictionary, The Mind of Buckminster Fuller, in 4 volumes, an alphabetically organized collection of all that E.J. Applewhite compiled that includes most but not all of what Bucky Fuller kept as a chronology of his observations and discoveries. This dictionary and the 2 volumes of Synergetics books I can refer to whenever I want to focus on any specific intuitively directed subject for the day's writing, recording, podcast, and YouTube channel without having to log on to the internet throughout the writing process. Everyone's science-minded intellect wants experimental proof of the premises under discussion. Typically, they want accreditation from the university experts, even though, and oddly enough, no such expertise is expected, as beliefs are readily accepted to be the truth of whatever it may be because someone wrote the words in books thousands of years ago, and major religions, as one example, latch onto those words, phrases, clauses, whole sentences as the final word on the subject. Usually, those words are accredited to God's words, and so it gives voice to centuries of content to which humans adapt. Humans adapt to the manifest form, words as content, words as a narrative, words as anyone's political, religion, justice, war, belief, complex schemes are forms from formulations taken into the information processing that one's brain and mind programs its intelligence to be recalled, reiterated, rejected on subsequent consequential thought during clarifying self's potential comprehension. The potential comprehension initiates as the observed environment is experienced by the individual information gathering, local problem solving as a natural necessity in order to survive. Survival comes in the smallest doses, barely felt, as the reactions to the interactions between self and the others register some degree of fear or longing, fear or love, and when unguarded without threats, any degree of satisfaction that all is right with the immediate world. The observing mind's brain does not categorically organize all these reactions to the experience. It is mostly subconsciously taken in, absorbed thus. The cerebral circuitry design on, apparently, is the potential consciousness evolution human computer that permits eventual clarity to dawn on the observing individual. Survival is always at play from one moment to the next, but this does not mean it is life or death survival, as it would be to save one's life from perilous conditions. It means that the communications process is not entirely harmless, regardless to what degree of freedom that is not consciously conceptualized. It could also be because there has not been any educated correlation to how the degrees of freedom come into the thought language, thought action, generalized conceptioning field. By clicking on the link to Synergetics table of content, seeing the search, typing in degrees of freedom, a new search page opens. Scroll down the list of Synergetic sections to click on whichever one seems to be of interest to some question you may have in mind. Leave relevant comments. Until next time, thank you for